How we doing, everybody? UFC Thoughts here, and today I'm going to be going over my picks and breakdown for every fight on UFC Atlanta, Usman vs. Buckley on June 14th, 2025. Timestamps in the comments below. Let's get right into it with the first fight of 13. We start with Jamey-Lyn Horth versus Vanessa Demopoulos. I'm going to pick Jamey-Lyn Horth. I'm going to try and keep this short and concise. I don't really rate either of these ladies at all, if I'm being honest. They're both pretty mid. I have no idea how Vanessa Demopoulos has racked up 5 wins in the UFC. I think every single win she has outside of the submission over, was it Juarez that she got the armbar over? Who did she get the armbar on? Yeah, she subs Silvana Gomez Juarez. Every other fight in the UFC, I feel like, that she's won has just been a split decision. Or it was like an arguable robbery. She's just not really that great. On the feet, she's slower. She's a bit grittier than Jamey-Lyn Horth, I'll give her that, which might lead to some issues, but it's a big-ass cage. Vanessa, she's a kind of like in-your-face, like, but she's so slow that it kind of just doesn't matter. Jamey-Lyn Horth is going to be a bit more technical. The speed advantage is honestly up in the air at this point. They're both so slow for women's flyweight, but I think Jamey-Lyn Horth has fought such good competition in less fights than Vanessa. You know, you look at Jamey-Lyn Horth, she's fighting fucking Miranda Maverick on short notice and going to a decision. She's beating Ivana Petrovic. She loses to Veronica Hardy. She beats Haley Cohen. Veronica Hardy and Miranda Maverick are really good fighters. Like, those are, like, actually solid WMMA fighters. And the reason why she's losing those is because of speed and just, like, overall technique. Vanessa Demopoulos isn't a technical fighter at all. She doesn't have the speed advantage either. I think Jamey-Lyn Horth is going to be able to bully Vanessa Demopoulos in moments as well against the cage and the clinch. She's just going to be so much bigger than her. So I'll go Jamey-Lyn Horth by decision. This fight fucking blows. We move to Phil Rowe versus Ange Loosa. Ah, man. I'm going to go with Phil Rowe on this one. It's a very close fight. I think it really depends on what versions of each of these guys show up. Phil Rowe, when he's throwing in combinations and landing, and, you know, he's going on the gas, not just like plain range, just like a little baby boy. When he's able to throw those combinations against people on the fence, he's very dangerous because he has a lot of pop in his hands. He's got that very stringy power where he's able to hit you from so far away, but when he does, it fucking hurts. You look at the performances, or the finishes rather, not full performances, against Nico Price and Orion Cosey. Against a guy like Ange Loosa, who I don't want to say relies on his chin in moments, but he kind of does. Ange Loosa does rely on his chin to kind of move forward. He'll take shots off the forehead because he's kind of a bruiser, kind of a brawler, kind of fights his way inside, gets the clinch, kind of holds you up a little bit. Does a lot of low kicks at range and will kind of barge in with these very stringy hooks, not stringy, but very, like, robust hooks. He'll enter with a jab type of thing. I think if Phil Rowe shows up to fight, you know, which is, you know, everyone should show up to fight, but like Phil Rowe, it's kind of like a half and half kind of thing, because you look at performances like the Jake Matthews and the Neil Magny performance, where he kind of just like allows fights to slip away from him for no reason. I think he can do pretty well. The grappling will be interesting because Ange Loosa does have decent wrestling in his back pocket. He showed that a lot in the Riz McGee fight. And also tried to wrestle Brian Battle in moments. But I think on the feet, Phil Rowe kind of has what a lot of people who do well on the feet have against Ange Loosa, which is the range. You look at Gabriel Bonfim, able to do what he does against Ange Loosa for 3 rounds, kind of style on him for the most part. Brian Battle, for as long as that fight lasted, was tuning the fuck up out of Ange Loosa. And that's just because they throw. If Phil Rowe's able to watch tape and realize, man, this guy, when he has people throwing at him, kind of just shells up and kind of looks to go for takedowns, I can have a field day, because Phil Rowe's one of these UFC guys who is constantly in grappling matches. Now, he loses almost every single one of them, to be fair. I think he won his last one that he had, which was in June of last year. Man, dude, he doesn't fight a lot either, man. And that's another thing that makes me want to pick Ange Loosa, is the fact that Phil Rowe is not an active guy, like, at all. He actually only has had 2 fights. He fights always in June. What the fuck? Why is this guy always fighting in June? June of 23, June of 24, and June of 25 as UFC fights. It's fucking crazy, but I think this is also kind of like a short notice kind of fight. Phil Rowe's got decent cardio. So does Ange Loosa. No, Ange Loosa kind of slows down. He slowed down in the McGee fight because he was beating the shit out of him. But I think Phil Rowe will do a bit more damage if he's able to throw. If he's throwing, he'll do more damage. Ange Loosa kind of needs to fight his way into range. I think that Phil Rowe will keep him at bay. Throw some shots. Throw a lot of 1s and 2s. Throw a lot of, body kicks, teep kicks. Kind of use his intangibles to his advantage. He's a big fucking guy for welterweight, to be fair, but I think Ange Loosa can get it done, but I'll go Phil Rowe. We move to Ricky Simón versus Cameron Smotherman. I'm going to go with Ricky Simón by either late round TKO or a decision. Cameron Smotherman is taking this on very short notice. I think he took this fight 2 days ago, so not even like a full week's notice. But Cameron's decent. He's got decent boxing. He's got good ring control. You know what I mean? But I'm just like, I haven't seen anything that jumps off the paper about Cameron Smotherman. You know what I mean? He beats Jake Hadley in a decision. Wowee. Good win, bud. That's a fucking flyweight moving up who's small. And then he loses to Surrey City, and Surrey City's pretty decent. And now from that fight that you got out-grappled in moments, you got out-wrestled by Surrey City, you're now going into a fight with Ricky Simón, who's got a better gas tank and better wrestling fundamentals than Surrey City. I think this is a disaster waiting to happen. And when you really look at who Ricky lost to, because people always will talk about the 3-fight losing streak that Ricky Simón went on. Dude, he only lost to Song Yadong, Mario Bautista, and fucking Vinicius Oliveira. You look at the wins before that, he's beating Jack Shore. He's finishing Jack Shore, finishing Rafael Assunção, finishing Gaetano Perello. Not that great, but the only other people he's lost to in the UFC were Rob Font and Uriah Faber. Uriah Faber was a fluke, you know what I mean? But Rob Font, Ricky Simón only loses to ranked guys. He only loses to dudes who have that standout power or that just are dynamic in everything that they do. He's going 5 rounds with Song Yadong. He's lasting that long. Not fully. He got knocked out very early in the 5th round, mind you. He got hurt really bad at the 4th round as well. Cameron Smotherman just doesn't really hit that hard, in my opinion. He's got that really, he's got that rangy boxing, kind of trying to stay fundamental. And I've seen Cameron get absolutely smashed with right hands before. Charles Lampos Gregorio comes to mind on the Contender Series when he got absolutely blasted with a straight right hand, and that's one of Ricky Simón's best weapons is the right hand over the top. He sets it up with a jab. That's exactly what Charles Lampos did. And Ricky Simón bounced back heavily with that win over Javid Basharat. Was looking good as well. And that's another case where it's a big bantamweight, not a big bantamweight, but a tall, lanky bantamweight who doesn't really have all that much power, but is just kind of flinging shots out there. I think Ricky Simón is either going to catch Cameron Smotherman eventually or just out-grapple him to a decision. So I'll go Ricky Simón, like I said, either late round TKO where he kind of Cameron slows down a little bit, week's notice. He didn't have a fight booked either, kind of just against the fence. Ricky Simón sets it up. Body shot, left hand, right hand. And it's not like Cameron Smotherman has a great takedown defense. It's in a round, Surrey City was able to get 4 takedowns on 7 attempts. You know what I mean? And I don't think Surrey City's grappling is that good. So I'll go Ricky Simón just because, also short notice. It is what it is. We move to Cody Durden versus Jose Ochoa. I'm going to pick Jose Ochoa on this one. I know Cody Durden seems like a decent underdog. He's actually one of the only ones that I could understand picking on this card. I think it's really just going to be a physical difference, and it's mostly due to age. Jose Ochoa is coming off a fight against Lone Kavanaugh, who in my opinion is probably one of the fastest flyweights on the roster, to Cody Durden. I think Jose Ochoa is going to be able to counter him very easily. And Jose, he's from Shoot the Box. He trains with a lot of good guys over there. They're always grinding over there. You can imagine training camps. And Jose, that means he's probably got great jiu-jitsu off his back. We've seen Cody Durden get subbed 4 times in his career. And also Cody Durden just kind of been on kind of a rough streak. He's 1-3 in his last 4. Albeit Tagiro Lembeka, Bruno Silva, and Joshua Van are the losses. He beat Matt Schnell in a he got hurt pretty bad by Matt Schnell. But he got finished by Bruno Silva. Bruno Silva knocked him the fuck out in that fight. I know Cody Durden was kind of tuning him up to that point, but I can't go by up to that point for Cody Durden. Jose Ochoa is a young 24-year-old big flyweight who's got crazy finishing potential. He's got 6 knockouts, 1 submission on his career. Had a almost finished Lone Kavanaugh at the end of round 2 with a body kick, hurt him very bad. And that's something that I really like, is Jose Ochoa goes to the body a lot. And that's something that I think really helps out when going against Cody Durden, a guy who likes to wrestle a lot, who is always kind of grinding in those clinch exchanges like Joshua Van. Joshua Van went to his body early and capitalized on it throughout the fight because Cody Durden was so slow at the end of that fight that Joshua Van was just able to pepper him up. Jose Ochoa maybe doesn't match, the output of a Joshua Van, of course. I don't think really anybody besides maybe Roy Vall can really match that. But like Jose Ochoa is actually outstriking Lone Kavanaugh very bad in round 2, 29-18. Round 1 competitive, round 3 competitive as well. It's just that he's slightly getting outdone by a quicker, younger Lone Kavanaugh who does throw a lot of kicks. Cody Durden, he's a lot of boxing. He's a lot of jabbing, kind of keeping you at bay, kind of rushing in with those hooks, kind of lunging in with right overhands. He doesn't throw a lot of crazy kicks. He's a wrestler first. Jose Ochoa, I think, is just younger, more dynamic, goes to the body often with a lot of body kicks, hits hard as fuck as well. Cody Durden, I think, is on the downturn. He's 6-5-1 in the UFC, 34 years old as a flyweight. That's almost on death's door at that point. I think Jose Ochoa finishes Cody Durden, maybe knocks him out or gets like a guillotine or something. I think Cody Durden loses either way to Jose Ochoa. Maybe Cody Durden, in a world, is able to grind out a decision, kind of what he was able to do against Charles Johnson and a couple other guys earlier in his career. I want to say that he also beat Jake Hadley kind of in the same way, just kind of grinded out a decision against him. But I think I'll go with, I will go with Jose Ochoa by finish. We move to Malcolm Wellmaker versus Kris Moutinho. I'm going to go with Malcolm Wellmaker by first round TKO. I know there's a lot of people saying that there's no way he's going to get knocked out in the first round. Kris Moutinho, for as much as he's rated for his toughness, has been TKO'd 4 times in his career. I get it. They're all in varying rounds. But I'm looking at a Guido Canetti performance. Old-ass Guido Canetti back in 2022. Dude, Guido Canetti in 2022 was 42 years old. He might have actually been 43. No, he was 42, turning 43. Guido Canetti's an old-ass Argentinian man who just has a power hand, doesn't even have all that technique to him. Kris Moutinho is terrible. He's not a good fighter. He just isn't. And you look at the 5-fight win streak. He's on a 5-fight win streak since the UFC. Antonio Castillo Jr. is now 16-21. He was 14-16 when Kris fought him. Mateus Silva was 8-2, decent to be fair. Jay Presley was 6-3 when Kris fought him. Now he's 8-6. 6-7 Elijah Harris and 22-16 Johnny Campbell. these are the people he's beating, all in almost varying promotions, and now he's fighting Malcolm Wellmaker on a week's notice. And by the way, it's not like Malcolm Wellmaker wasn't preparing for this. He was going to fight on Atlanta. They were just struggling to find an opponent for him. So now you got Kris Moutinho stepping in, who has the head movement that's probably worse than Patchy Mix, which is unbelievably bad. His footwork's terrible. He just doesn't move his head. He eats a lot of shots. In the UFC, how many strikes does he absorb per minute? Kris Moutinho in the UFC, which was 2 fights, absorbs 15.5 significant strikes per minute. He's going to get worked, man. And Malcolm Wellmaker, he's not a pushover on the ground either. He's got good takedown defense. You look at what he just did to Cameron Simon. He beat him worse than Peyton Talbot did, okay? Kris Moutinho isn't even on the level of a Cameron Simon. He's going to get fucking worked in the first round, TKO'd, eat a lot of shots. It'll be another kind of weird TKO, I imagine, where he's kind of just like standing up, getting fucking battered by Malcolm Wellmaker. Or maybe Malcolm Wellmaker is the guy to finally sink him to the canvas and fucking knock him the fuck out. He actually already lost to Johnny Campbell, the guy that he just fought a while ago. He lost to him. Wow. He beat Damone Blackshear? Wait, hold up. What? How does Kris Moutinho have a win over Damone Blackshear? That's besides the point. Malcolm Wellmaker is going to beat the shit out of Kris Moutinho, lock it in. First round KO. We move to Michael Chiesa versus Court McGee. I'm going to go with Michael Chiesa, most likely by decision. It's just kind of unks battling it out, you know. I think Court McGee, he's always kind of like a tough out, I guess. But Michael Chiesa's kind of on a roll right now, subbing Tony in the first round, subbing Max Griffin, which is actually kind of hard. I don't know if Max Griffin's ever been subbed before. That's his only submission loss in his career. And Michael kind of actually ragdolled him and kind of outworked him every round in that fight. That's actually a great performance by an older Michael Chiesa. But Court McGee, he's kind of just in the UFC. You know what I mean? I don't think Michael Chiesa has the power to knock him out. Does Michael Chiesa even have a knockout on his resume? He's never knocked anybody out. So, and Court's never been subbed before in his career. He's a wrestler, jiu-jitsu type fighter. That's his kind of bread and butter, is the wrestling and grappling. I think Michael Chiesa, as crazy as it is, I think he has more tools on the feet than a fighter in this case, which is fucking wild. I think Michael will be able to kind of just control Court McGee in a way. Kind of what Alex Morono was able to do in moments. Just kind of outdo him. You know? Man, Ramiz Brahim might have lost to Court McGee. That's fucking crazy. I think Michael Chiesa is just in a better state in his career at this moment. And Michael Chiesa, for all the shit people give him, he really has only lost to really good fighters. Not really good, but like Kevin Holland isn't really good, but he's very dangerous, especially at welterweight. Sean Brady is the #1 contender at welterweight right now. Vicente Luque in 2021, that was like prime Luque. Anthony Pettis, Kevin Lee, and he's losing to most of these guys by submission. Jorge Masvidal, Joe Lozon, you know what I mean? Like, he's only losing to like people in their primes and people that are like actually like decent. Court McGee, he'll lose to a Alex Morono. Michael Chiesa would beat the shit out of Alex Morono. Court McGee, I just don't think he does enough at all anywhere. I think he's more of a grind him out kind of style grappler. He submitted Tim Means in October, but Tim Means is kind of garbage and like washed now. He's like 42 years old, I believe. Michael Chiesa, 37, younger than Court McGee, bigger than Court McGee. Kind of always has that size advantage over people, and I think that he's just fought way better competition and is just going to be able to outdo Court McGee in the grappling. So I'll go Michael Chiesa by decision, 30-27. It's going to be kind of a boring fight, I imagine, but Michael Chiesa is just going to outdo him. We move to the featured prelim, Paul Craig versus Rodolfo Bellato. I'm going to go with Rodolfo Bellato. I already broke this fight down in my UFC Vegas 106 predictions. This was the co-main event. I picked Rodolfo Bellato. And I'm picking him now. He didn't pull out because he injured himself. He has herpes. That's kind of crazy to me. He's got the youth advantage. He trains with Alex Pereira. Rodolfo Bellato has a lot of grit to him. That's something that I can't say the same about Paul Craig. Paul Craig, he's sub or nothing. You know what I mean? Like, he's really sub or nothing. The only fight where his striking looked somewhat, like, compatible with his opponent was Bo Nickel, which should have been a sign for any Bo Nickel picker in the Renier de Ritter fight that maybe this isn't the fight he's going to win. Yeah, Paul Craig just isn't really that good, in my opinion. Striking, he's terrible. Rodolfo Bellato is going to be able to smash his legs with low kicks. He throws a lot of low kicks. He fights like Alex in a way, but he's just so, like, garbage compared to him. He's very, like, upright, throws a lot of outside low kicks, will throw a left hook, kind of barge in. And the problem with Paul Craig is he doesn't have the stand-up to combat Rodolfo, who we've all seen. I'm pretty sure he got knocked down. Oh, no, that might have been Billy Ray Goff. Ihor Potieri almost finished him. Who did he just fight? Jimmy Crute almost finished Rodolfo Bellato. Hurt him really bad on the feet, and that's the thing. Paul Craig just doesn't have that. He's a submission or nothing. You know what I mean? Rodolfo Bellato, I think, finishes Paul Craig. He hits very hard. Has way better cardio than Paul Craig, I'll be honest. He pushes a really heavy pace, and Paul Craig at a heavy pace just doesn't really mix together all that well. He's a very, like, lower output. He went 3 decent rounds with Bo Nickel, but that's because Bo Nickel and him were throwing a strike every 30 seconds. So Rodolfo is going to push a crazy pace, find a finish in the second or third round, I believe, TKO. Paul Craig, he's just so washed now. I know he's bringing up from light middleweight back to light heavyweight, but now he's going into a fight against a huge light heavyweight. This dude's a fucking brick wall when it comes to just, like, his physicality. So I'll go Rodolfo Bellato by second or third round TKO. I think it'll be one of those things where Paul Craig is backing up. Rodolfo will throw a right hand over the top, crack him. Paul Craig does a little dance, and then Rodolfo just starts, like, unloading combinations, and Paul Craig's just trying to get, like, a collar tie, and he just gets fucking absolutely bombarded with punches, and the ref has to step in. So I'll go Rodolfo Bellato. We move to the start of the main card, Alonzo Menifield versus Oumar Sy. I'm going to go with Oumar Sy. Y'all know how I feel about Oumar. That's the homie. I think Oumar Sy is too athletic for Alonzo Menifield. I think he's too technical, too big. I mean, look at the reach disadvantage. Alonzo Menifield's going to be at a 7-inch reach disadvantage, 4-inch height disadvantage, and that's something Alonzo Menifield, to be fair, always does kind of have or gives up size in most of these fights, height and reach-wise. I'm looking at the Julius Walker fight, man, and he looks gassed after, like, round 1. Like, midway through round 1, he's looking tired. Oumar Sy pushes a decent pace, and he actually does go to decision decently. He looked pretty good against Dawoon Jung. That's, like, one of the reasons why I like him as a fighter, as a prospect. You know, he saw in the first round that the grappling wasn't maybe the best area to get the win, because he went 1 of 4 on takedowns, and then he just started striking and beating him up on the feet. He's got finishing potential. When he gets people on the ground, man, he is so brutal with his ground and pound when he's able to advance position, land his elbows, kind of drop them down. Alonzo Menifield's kind of stupid. In times he really does rush in a lot, and Oumar Sy is able to circle around the cage very well, circles around on the less dangerous side. So Alonzo Menifield as a southpaw, the right side is going to be more dangerous. He circles to Oumar's right. He's able to crack people on the feet. He's got such long arms. His jab is very good. He's able to just kind of, like, land shots and then evade back and then kind of shoot a takedown, kind of level change, uppercut, kind of right hand, evade, kind of circle, shoot a takedown. He does a lot all the time. He's a very good fighter, and I think Alonzo Menifield, old as hell, 37 years old. People forget that he's been in the UFC for a while, Alonzo Menifield, and Oumar Sy, I think, younger, bigger, more physical, more, you know, just better everywhere, in my opinion. Alonzo Menifield maybe only has a power advantage in this fight. I lean Oumar Sy in this fight. I think that he outworks Alonzo Menifield, maybe gets a late round finish. over Alonzo Menifeld. Alonzo Menifield's chin has also been kind of sus in moments. You look at three of his losses in the UFC, gets knocked out by OSP in 2020, gets knocked out by Olberg in 12 seconds, and then got absolutely pieced up by Azamat Murzakanov. He's able to get wins over Dustin Jacoby, which is just because of the power. And Dustin Jacoby isn't a wrestler. Alonzo doesn't have to worry about that. Jimmy Crute arguably lost the first fight, unless there's a 10-8 round. Misha Serkinov's garbage, old as hell. Askar Mazarov is trash, garbage as hell. I just think Oumar Sy is a way better fighter than Alonzo Menifield. Younger, just more explosive. Maybe not as explosive, but way more technical than Alonzo Menifield. I think he should be able to get this one done in round 2 or 3 with a submission or a TKO on the ground. Go Oumar Sy. We move to Mansur Abdul-Malik versus Cody Brundage. I'll go Mansur. I'm going to be honest with you. I debated on picking Cody Brundage. He showed a lot of heart in his last fight against Julian Marquez, as wild as that is to say about Cody Brundage, guys. He showed some heart in the cage. Actually fought back from a very bad right hand. I just think Mansur Abdul-Malik's a decent prospect. Trains with Eric Nixick and Sean Strickland and all those guys. They all hype him up as a very explosive, very talented young prospect. In the UFC, Mansur has 2 finishes. Had a very rough round against Nick Klein in the first round, where he got dropped with a spinning back fist and did basically nothing. Cody Brundage is just kind of wishy-washy. He's a very, throwing the same thing over and over again kind of guy. I've seen him get out-grappled a lot in his UFC career, and that's a place that I think Mansur Abdul-Malik can get a lot of credit in this fight, get a lot of brownie points with the judges, is just grappling. Cody Brundage, if you guys forget, literally got held down for like 14 minutes by Cedric Dumas. I almost just want to check to see if I'm remembering that correctly, because I remember that fight being literally the worst performance I've seen in my life. Where is that? It was a while ago. It was the Ilya Topuria versus Emmett card, I remember. Yeah, how long did he get held down in this fight? Because it opened up the night. Cedric had 11 minutes of control time, and Cody didn't even fight to get back up. He's got a spotty chin as well. Yeah, I don't know. I just think Cody Brundage doesn't do enough dynamic shit. Like Nick Klein caught Mansur off guard with that spinning back fist. But the thing is, Mansur's got a weird, kind of suspect chin. I think he gets chinned eventually in the UFC. But Cody Brundage, man, he just gives up sometimes. And I don't think this is a guy that Mansur is big, athletic, has a huge reach advantage, knows how to use it decently well, is able to get in brawls with people, and Cody Brundage hates brawling with people, man. He hates it. He embraced it against Julian Marquez. Besides that, dude, he fucking despises anybody putting any pressure on him. I think Mansur will break Cody Brundage. I think Cody Brundage actually will shoot a takedown on Mansur Abdul-Malik very early, and Mansur might be able to reverse it and finish him with ground and pound. But yeah, Mansur Abdul-Malik, I just think he's better than Cody Brundage. Cody can fluke it, maybe with a stark right hand, like a right hook, and Mansur will fall down, but I think Mansur will just chin Cody Brundage eventually or finish him with ground and pound early on. So I'll go Mansur Abdul-Malik. We move to Cody Garbrandt versus Raoni Barcelos. I'm going to go with Cody Garbrandt on this one. I know Raoni beat Peyton Talbot, man. My big thing about Peyton Talbot is the weakness in his game has always been his grappling, his defensive wrestling. He got controlled by Reyes on the Contender Series. He got controlled in the first round by... I always fucking forget who the first guy he fought was. Peyton Talbot. I always fucking forget who the first guy he fought in the UFC was. It's some bum. I want to say it's not Fernie Garcia. Who is it? Nick Aguirre, that dude. That dude, he controlled Peyton very bad, and Raoni Barcelos has a wrestling background, was able to do that. Cody Garbrandt has an 80% takedown defense. He actually out-wrestled a couple of guys. He got out-wrestled, of course, by Davison Figueiredo. Davison's a flyweight moving up, ex-champion, and was actually doing pretty well. Out-grappled Rob Font as well, you know what I mean? Like, he's actually good. And he's been grappling with, like, Cody, Corey Sandhagen, Cheeto Vera, all these guys, Piotr Jan in moments. Cody Garbrandt, I just think he's going to have a huge speed advantage over Raoni Barcelos. And I'm going to be honest with you, that's all you really need against Raoni is the speed. Victor Henry, that fight really comes to mind. Victor Henry was like a plus 800 or something, and literally all he had over Raoni was technique and speed. That's it. And Raoni kind of looked lost. Raoni's old, 38 years old, had a very cool performance over Peyton Talbot, I'll give him that. But dude, God, this sucks to say because I like Peyton Talbot, dude. Cody Garbrandt is not Peyton Talbot. He ain't. He's not that easy to ground. I think Cody Garbrandt's going to be able to TKO Raoni Barcelos at a point. Raoni's slower than you could imagine at bantamweight, especially as the fight goes on. That's where Peyton Talbot actually had a lot of success, was because Raoni was so slow as the fight went on that Peyton was actually able to rack up some points on the feet. Cody Garbrandt, he's going to be able to do his little running man. And Raoni doesn't really have like that crazy pop in his hands that you kind of need to beat Cody Garbrandt. He hasn't. When was the last time Raoni knocked anybody out? Carlos Huishin in 2019. He's more of a, even though he doesn't have as many submission wins, most of his finishes in the UFC are submissions. I'm not going to forget that this dude was going kind of to war with Christian Quinones. Like, I'm not going to forget that. Like, Christian Quinones is not good at all. And Raoni Barcelos is going to, like, competitive rounds with him. I think Cody Garbrandt, I think he's going to be able to beat Raoni Barcelos decently easily, if I'm being honest with you. Just using speed, technique, kind of landing in the pocket, kind of being able to exit exchanges, jab, exit, jab, right hand, left hook, kind of circle around him. Raoni's going to be swinging at air. I'll go Cody Garbrandt. We move to the featured fight. Edmen Shahbazyan versus Andre Petroski. You guys know me. If you're an avid watcher, if you've been watching me for a while, you know how I feel about an underdog Andre Petroski pick. I'm picking Andre Petroski. Listen, this is like my goofball pick every card this guy fights. I've made a lot of money probably picking Andre Petroski in my career, because he's actually been an underdog for like quite a bit of his career. I know he was an underdog against Nick Maximov. Yeah, he was a plus 290. I picked him then. I picked him against Gerald. He was a favorite there. I picked him against Rodolfo Vieira, which he was an underdog, decent underdog in. I think Andre Petroski, listen, and here's the real thing about, I'm not just picking him because he's an underdog. He genuinely has a way to win this fight. Edmen Shahbazyan, in my opinion, really just is first round KO or bust. Pause, by the way, Jesus. Edmen really thrives in that first round, which is a scary thought, because Andre, if you remember, 3 or 4 fights ago, this dude got absolutely smashed by Michel Pereira in like a minute, and then against Jacob Malkoun, got knocked out with a hip. But since then, he's racked up 3 wins. Dylan Budka was one of them, Josh Fremd was one of them, and then just recently, Rodolfo Vieira. Andre Petroski, and Edmen's coming off a great win over Dylan Budka. That's like the huge thing, is Dylan Budka and Edmen just fought. I believe they fought on the same. When did Edmen fight Dylan? I want to say it was really recent. They fought on the same card, actually, yeah. Because Edmen, I think, was either the co-main or the featured fight on that as well. Edmen chinned him really bad. Dylan Budka on the feet is genuinely garbage. Like, he's genuinely terrible. Andre Petroski, he sets up his wrestling in such a way that he kind of forces you to overthrow things. And Edmen Shahbazyan, I've seen him throw away finishes against Gerald Mearshart just because he kind of rushed to the ground. Andre Petroski actually, unironically, has grappled with a lot of really solid guys who have better grappling, in my opinion, than Edmen Shahbazyan. Nick Maximov, Rodolfo Vieira, he was actually beating Rodolfo Vieira on the feet as well. Andre, he's a grinder, man. He puts a grind on people, and he's got a better gas tank than Edmen, and that's something that everyone usually has over Edmen. Edmen, it's really, you're picking Edmen based on the first round. Is he going to be able to finish Andre? Which he most certainly can, I'll be honest with you. But I think Andre is going to be able to weather that storm and be able to get his takedowns. Because Andre is a very solid wrestler. His stand-up's kind of mediocre. He's got a big old right hand. That's kind of it. But he jabs somewhat decent. He doesn't just like lunge in and overswing like Dylan would. Like Dylan Budka did, where he kind of just like lunges in with the left hook, doesn't return his hands to his face. Andre actually kind of sets things up, kind of looks for takedowns. He was able to take down Jacob Malkoun. I like that. He was able to, I think he did take down Rodolfo Vieira at one point in their fight, if I do remember that correctly. No, he actually didn't. He defended a lot of takedowns from Rodolfo, never actually took him down, but just did more on the feet. Landed the better shots, at least. I think Andre will either find a late round finish or win a decision based on 2 and 3. I think Edmen, as hard as he works on his cardio, he really just is first round or bust. That Gerald Meerschaert fight really does come to mind when you think about that, because that wasn't even that long ago for Edmen. That was in what, October? Was that in October? That was in August. That was on that Cannonier Bohalio card. And then you look at the AJ Dobson fight, knockout in the first round. He was actually losing that fight up to that point as well. I'm so pissed off because I picked AJ Dobson in there. Dolce Lugambola, second round finish, to be fair. His only one in his career. But then Brad Tavares, first round KO. Jack Marshman, first round KO. Charles Byrd, first round KO. Went to a split decision with Darren Stewart, to be fair. First round KO, first round KO, first round KO, first round KO, first round KO. You know, he's all first round KOs, this guy. I think Andre Petroski is going to be able to get out of the first round, kind of wrestle him, tangle him up, kind of press him against the fence, put pressure on him. That's something Andre Petroski does do well, is pressure. I think he'll be able to do that well enough. Edmen could knock him out. Who fucking knows? We move to Rose Namajunas versus Miranda Maverick. I'm going to go with Rose Namajunas. I'm going to try and keep this one short and sweet because I made that last fight a little too long of a breakdown. I just really don't think Miranda Maverick has what it takes to beat a Rose at this point in her career. The people that beat Rose Namajunas are top 5 contenders. They're really solid fighters. Erin Blanchfield had to come back in a fight because she was just getting outstruck and out, like she couldn't take her down. Miranda Maverick doesn't even have the takedown entries of a Erin Blanchfield. She actually got fucked up by Erin Blanchfield. You know what I mean? And Miranda on the feet, she's very just like, she kind of just does the basics. And so does Rose, but Rose is just better at it than Miranda, in my opinion. I think Rose will throw a 1-2, kind of exchange left hooks, kind of move out the way, head movement, leg kick. She doesn't have any power in any of these shots, of course. Miranda Maverick probably has more power than Rose Namajunas. But Rose just does much more. And this isn't a fight that I have to worry about Rose's cardio. Because Rose has weird cardio where in 5-round fights, she will lose like the last couple rounds. She'll lose the last 2 at least, or lose the last one. I think she lost the 5th round to Tracy Cortez, if I'm remembering that correctly. But Miranda, in my opinion, isn't even on the level of a Hebas or a Cortez at this point in her career. You know what I mean? Like Miranda Maverick, she has some decent performances, but she's going to like competitive decisions with Gabby Fernandez on short notice. She did fight Gabby Fernandez, right? No, who am I thinking about? No, Dione Barboza. That's who, not Gabby Fernandez. Dione Barboza. Jamey-Lyn Horth, short notice as well, going to a decision. Andrea Lee, competitive. She lost the first round to fucking Andrea Lee. She has a really good performance over Priscilla Cachoeira, to be fair. But then, like, you know, it kind of, you know, she beat Jillian Robertson in 2021. That's actually that's a win that's aged incredibly well. But Rose, I think she'll be able to defend the takedowns that Miranda has for her. And on the feet, I think Rose will just slightly outdo her to a either 30-27 or 29-28 decision. Miranda just doesn't have the tool bag, in my opinion, to beat a Rose Namajunas. You know, she doesn't have insane wrestling. She doesn't have insane striking. She's just kind of decent at both of those things, but I think Rose is just better at both of those things than her. So it's not like Rose is crazy washed either. You know, she's beating the Amanda Hebos. She's beating the Tracy Cortez. She's going to a competitive decision with Erin Blanchfield. That, like, the third round's close. She's going to a competitive decision with Manon Fiore, who just had a competitive decision with Valentina Shevchenko. You know what I mean? So I think Rose Namajunas, it's a decent fight, but I think Miranda Maverick's just going to get outworked in this fight. So I'll go Rose Namajunas, unanimous decision, 30-27, lock it in. We move to the main event. Kamaru Usman versus Joaquin Buckley. I'm going to pick Joaquin Buckley by decision. Kamaru is my favorite fighter of all time. So it's very hard to pick against him. And it hurts my soul that the only 2 appearances Kamaru has had on my channel, I've picked against him both times. This is a really hard fight for him to come back from after not fighting in almost 2 years, though, in my opinion. Joaquin Buckley, listen, he is on kind of an old head reign of terror right now, but I think his style really, like, crashes with Kamaru's in a very weird way. Kamaru's striking, in my opinion, isn't at the level that it needs to be to have as much success as he needs against a guy like Joaquin Buckley. In this fight, Kamaru is going to really need to rely on pressure in this fight. He's going to really need to push Joaquin back. He cannot allow Joaquin to have the front foot in this fight, because that's where Joaquin really lands a lot of solid combinations, lands a shit ton of damage, presses you against the fence, just starts starts unloading hooks and uppercuts, the power shit. You know what I mean? And he's very dangerous in the pocket, but he can also get clipped in moments. But my big thing with Kamaru is when he gets in the pocket, if he's not leading into it and he's defensively throwing strikes, it gets kind of ugly, where he kind of puts his head down and just kind of starts throwing really wild, and I'm not a huge fan of that. And another thing Kamaru doesn't do is throw enough kicks. A lot of Kamaru's offensive striking is going to come from his hands. He will throw teeps to the body. He will throw low kicks. He'll throw a head kick once in a blue moon. He threw a couple of those against Colby Covington, and that's just because he wanted to, because Colby was doing it back at him. Joaquin has a huge kicking game, huge kicking arsenal, side kicks to the body, head kicks, body kicks. He doesn't really throw a lot of low kicks. He's more of a bruiser in a way, kind of peekaboo, kind of going back and forth, hook, uppercut, kind of dragging you back, swivel, left hook, kind of lunging in. And the thing is, I think Joaquin Buckley's defensive wrestling is really improving every single time we see him fight. I will say, if Kamaru is going to win, and it's not a finish, he's going to win based on 3, 4, and 5. That's what he's going to win off of. I think Joaquin Buckley will win the first 3 rounds, though. I think round 4 will be kind of competitive, and round 5 maybe as well. I think Kamaru Usman, if he wins, it'll be based on his pressure, his pace, and his cardio. I think the big issue is that Joaquin Buckley has good cardio. And Colby in this scenario doesn't have the same level of cardio as Joaquin Buckley did, which is why he lost both the fights with Kamaru Usman. Joaquin was actually kind of steamrolling Colby for as long as that fight went. Outside of the takedowns, Joaquin Buckley can get held down for like a minute and a half, 2 minutes at a time. It's the holding him against the cage, because he's such a big ball of muscle. He's actually one of the only dudes I've seen at welterweight that maybe has more muscle on him than Kamaru in a way. I think Joaquin's on a streak, man. I think he's a bitch to hold down. I think he's a bitch to strike with. He's got really good jabs. Kamaru Usman's favorite weapon is his jab. He developed it crazily back in 2021. Or was it 2020? No, that was 2021. 258, 261, and 268, yeah. Because then 2022 is when he loses to Leon. But, yeah, I think Kamaru can have some success. I really just think the time off is going to hurt him in a horrific way. 2 years off, Kamaru has never had that much time off from fighting ever. I think the last time that he had that much time off was, I can't even fucking think of it. It would have, I don't even know. Was it, no, 251, because he fought at 245, I want to say, and then 251. Maybe he was relatively very active for his championship reign in the years before that. Joaquim's on a roll right now, man. He finishes Vicente Luque on the ground, knocks out Wonder Boy. He beat the shit out of Colby for the most part, outside of 2 takedowns that Colby had. But even then, Joaquim just outdamaged him. And that's really the thing, is that Kamaru Usman, he hasn't fought really in the damage era. Joaquim Buckley is the damage in this fight. Kamaru Usman, he can land the jabs, but I think he's going to be outspeed. Joaquim's going to have a speed advantage. He's going to have the explosivity advantage, striking advantage. The only advantage Kamaru really has is the cardio, and that's a maybe. I think he probably has better cardio just because of what we've seen him do in 5 rounds before. And maybe the wrestling, but even then, Joaquim Buckley has been rapidly improving his wrestling game over the last couple of years, and he's just been grinding out decision wins and sometimes in finishing guys. Pause. I think Joaquim gets this one done via decision. I'll go 48-47, maybe 49-46 decision. Kamaru's best work is going to be as the fight goes on, like the Khamzat fight. Early on, I think Kamaru's going to be biting on feints a lot of the time. Joaquim's going to be throwing a lot of kicks, a lot of body kicks, a lot of head kicks, trying to match that Leon Edwards style, but better takedown defense. And that was another thing. Rewatching the trilogy with Leon Edwards, the third fight, it wasn't really that great of a performance from Kamaru looking back on it. And the Khamzat fight, even in round 2, he didn't really do anything. I know that was because of the takedown threat, but he didn't do enough in that fight. Against Joaquim Buckley, he needs to do more, which might zap on the tank a little bit more. He's going to try and throw more because the wrestling threat isn't there like with Joaquim like it was with Khamzat, but I think Joaquim still just is going to do way more than Kamaru in the first 3 rounds at least. Maybe round 3 gets a little competitive, scrappy in the middle parts, maybe near the end, but rounds 1 and 2 I think are very clearly going to be Joaquim Buckley, in round 3 maybe a bit closer, round 4 kind of the same as round 3, maybe a little bit more leaning towards to Kamaru, and round 5 will be kind of a swing round, but I think Joaquim overall will do more damage, has a bigger tool belt, is improving rapidly, has been fighting more, has more momentum, and is just younger, more explosive, better. And it hurts to say that because I love Kamaru Usman, but I think that this is going to be his retirement fight. I think he should retire if he loses to Joaquim Buckley, walk away before he starts losing to fucking Ian Gary and shit. Like, I don't want to see that. Joaquim Buckley, I think he's next up. I think he's one of the only guys in the division that can beat Jack Della Maddalena. So, Joaquim Buckley for the win. I'm UFC Thoughts. These are my picks and breakdown for every fight on UFC Atlanta. Usman vs. Buckley on June 14th, 2025. My confident picks reside with Malcolm Wellmaker, Oumar C, and Rose Namajunas. My pre-card rating is a 7 out of 10. For a fight night, this is actually very stacked. Not stacked, but it's a pretty decent fight night card. The main event carries a lot of the weight, but you got some other guys on there, like a Cody Garbrandt, like a Malcolm Wellmaker, like a Rodolfo Bellato, Paul Craig. You got some fun scraps scattered throughout. Co-main event's kind of weak, but it's a Rose Namajunas fight. What are you going to do with that? Yeah, I'm very sad this fight week. I really This is a fight that I really want to see Kamaru win. I just don't know if he can do it. You know what I mean? That's the worst feeling, is when you have a favorite fighter that goes into a fight and you just don't think they can get it done. But yeah, if you like the video, give it a like. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Who are you guys picking in every fight or in the main event? You could just give me that. I will see you guys after the fights. Peace.